stay-at-home mom. We were blessed first with Peter in 1987, and then 15 months later, our daughter Catherine. A couple years after that was our youngest, Lewis. And somewhere in the midst of growing our family, Chuck bought into a Hardee's franchise, and we sold the house in Indiana, sold the horses, and moved to Illinois. And we had a good life there, kids in their early years, but a few years later, we jumped off the merry-go-round, and we sold that house, put all of our possessions in storage, and moved to my parents' summer cottage in Ohio that had no running water, no central heat, and no indoor plumbing. We had so much fun, and it was a brutal Ohio winter that year with lots of snow. We split logs to burn for heat. We hauled water for cooking and for drinking, and our children met a lot of new friends, one of which had a pet raccoon and a couple of horses. They spent a lot of time exploring the woods, and finding salamanders and turtles and bats, and fish from the dock, and I taught them how to row a boat. And we continued to homeschool during that period of time. The lake was frozen solid, so we cleared a spot on it, made the snow to have boards, and we played hockey every single day for recess. It was one of the best times of our life. And then it came time to join the real world again. Chuck and I switched roles. This time, he was the stay-at-home dad. And we bought a house in Boardman, Ohio. It was not far from where my family was. And Chuck rehabbed it, room by room, cabinet by cabinet, flower bed by flower bed. And our family adventures continued, spanning all those activities that we were involved with the kids. Little League, ballet, gymnastics, a few more moves, hockey, youth hockey, 4-H, and of course a lot of school activities. And our vacations were spent camping in a tent with 3 kids under 7 years old, with trips to museums and county fairs, national and state parks, and I'd be remiss if I didn't point out Civil War battlefields as well. And as with any relationship, there's good times, there's bad times, there's ups and there's downs. Hands down, the best times we had were the times with our family and with Chuck's brothers and his parents and with my sisters and my parents. Our most challenging time was when Lewis passed away, just shy of his 13th birthday, after a long battle with leukemia. That grief took its toll on all of us. Chuck was especially close to Lewis because of all the time that he spent in the hospital with him, and Chuck felt that grief deeply. We survived. Some days were better than others, but in the end, it drew us closer as a family. And Chuck is very proud of the adults that Peter and Katie have become. And I'm grateful for the support that both of them have offered us over the years. And for the past 13 years, Chuck faced some personal challenges of his own. He survived a stroke that left him paralyzed on his left side and unable to walk or talk. But after 4 months of rehab, he came home and he was able to walk and talk. And that was definitely one of those celebration moments. And it speaks to his tenacity and his perseverance. And I'll admit that Chuck was a little bit of a different person after the stroke. But he persevered, although in a smaller world. In 2020, Chuck had a double bypass in January, and he survived COVID in June, and he came home both times. But this last hurdle of a seizure with his advancing years was just too much for him to overcome.